Gotta dust them off a little bit. What's going on, guys? Ultra Stasio here with FlytPath.com. Now, we have the Mini 2 right in the center. Had to dust off some of the OGs in the drone space. We have the DJI Spark, as well as here we have the Air 1. This came out in April 2017. And here we have the 3-year-old now, because it came out in 2018 in January. We have the DJI Air, this is version 1, that came out 3 years ago. Now, while we're talking about these drones here in 2021, well, a lot of my followers that really started following me back in 2016, 17, even though I had a lot of videos on the Phantom, the accessories and all things in 2016 and 2015, I didn't really start taking YouTube seriously until about April 2017. So I know there's a handful of you guys that have been following me since then. So I just wanted to talk to you guys quickly about some of those things that have evolved or changed now into what we have here, the Mini 2. And how does this stack up? If I have something like the Spark or the Air 1, is it really worth me upgrading to the Mini 2, or should I upgrade into something like the Air 2 or the Mavic 2 Pro? Let's talk about that in this video. But first, a quick message from our sponsor, Storyblocks. And for those who aren't familiar with Storyblocks, Storyblocks is an online subscription membership plan that allows you to download over 1 million royalty-free digital assets. Storyblocks offers high-resolution photos as well as HD and 4K video downloads. And like I said earlier, the great thing is it's unlimited downloads with your subscription plan. Now, if you guys have followed me on my channel, you guys know I normally like to add in some B-roll footage of my products that I normally will review. And that's where Storyblocks comes in. Sometimes you might be telling a story, but you don't have that extra footage to talk about it in a little bit more detail and give that user a little bit more visualization of what you're speaking about. For instance, right now, I know a lot of people are stuck at home wanting to go on vacations, and it's easy for me just to speak about going on a vacation. But now if I'm able to show you visually about some areas that I want to visit, I'm able to now find these types of clips on Storyblocks, add those to my story, and give you guys a little bit more better representation of what I'm speaking about, what I'm talking about, and eventually where I want to go. Once this whole medical issue is getting resolved, I definitely want to head to some of these places. So if you do want to bring your stories a little bit more to life and you don't want to sacrifice time, resource, and your budget, use my link down below to start a membership plan with Storyblocks. And now back to the video. Now, if you recently watched my video on the Mini 2 versus the Air 2, because these are the two newest drones from DJI, and you have some questions on which one of those two to get, make sure you guys check out the link above as well as down below. I go in a little bit more detail on some of those key features I think that really separate those two drones apart. But I know a lot of people that have been following me on my channel started out with something like this, the DJI Spark, as well as the Mavic Air 1. And some people would ask me, hey, is it worth the upgrade to the Mini 2? If I already have the Spark or if I already have the Air 1, is it worth me upgrading to the Mini 2? Or should I look at something like the Air 2 or the Mavic 2 Pro? In this video, I just want to talk to you about some of those key features as far as what you want to look for if you're trying to compare some of the older models with some of the newer ones. Now, first and foremost, if you've already owned a DJI Spark or an Air 1 and you already know how compact the size is, just note that the size of the Mini 2 is actually still a lot smaller than both of those. So I know when these first came out, that was the biggest selling point of these drones, that they're super compact, especially when you're comparing this to something like the Phantom. So if you already do have these drones right here, and of course if you've maxed out their capabilities, then you probably know yourself, hey, you know what? I think I've maxed them out. I need now 4K, or I need a little bit slow motion at the higher frame rates, or I just want better obstacle avoidance, then you probably would know best if you need to make that upgrade. Now, I already touched upon this, and that is, of course, the size. The size difference is a big difference. Even though these are really small drones, the size is significant when you jump over to the Mini lineup, the Mini 1 and the Mini 2. Again, we'll bring in that weight factor. The Mini 2 does come in at under 250 grams, so depending on where you are in the country, you might have those regulations where you can't fly over 250 grams unless you register your drone. So the Mini 2 does come in under 250 grams. As far as the Spark goes, we at 300 grams, even though it actually feels a lot heavier than the Mini. And then on the Air 2, we have 430 grams. So when it comes to weight, if weight is an issue in your area, the Mini 2 under 250 grams. Now the biggest upgrade here is flight time. Now flight time on the Mini 2 is rated for 31 minutes. And if you guys have seen some of my flight time videos as far as doing a basic hover test, on the Minis I would normally get around 26 to 27 minutes hover. The Spark right here is actually rated for only 16 minutes, which means hover time and flight time, you're probably going to get around that 11-minute mark. Same goes for the Air 1, rated for 21 minutes. This one, you'll probably be around that 15-16-minute mark. So if you're looking at flight time, definitely the Mini 2 comes in at a lot longer rated flight time. The next thing we'll talk about is noise. And I think when you talk about noise, as far as how the propellers sound, how they wind up, how it sounds in the air, the biggest difference here is, I think with the Air 1, this is probably, I would say, one of the most annoying high-pitched drone sounds you'll have or have heard of amongst all of the DJI lineup. It just squeals super loud versus even something like the Spark. The Spark is even lower tone than the Air. As far as some similarities go, they do all have the same sensor size, the 1/2.3-inch CMOS sensor on all three of these drones. Now when we're talking about video resolution, that's where the big difference is. The Spark only shoots at 1080p max, where the Air and the Mini 2 shoot at 4K at 30. Now for me, the biggest difference on why I would ever want to upgrade from something like the Spark and Air to, even if I'm going with something still on the small drone side like the Mini 2, is the Ocusync 2 technology. Now why is that so important? Well, the Ocusync gives you a lot more transmission range from your remote control to your drone. With these right here, they don't use that Ocusync technology. They use an enhanced Wi-Fi technology to give you some decent range, but nothing comparable to what the Ocusync technology has on things like the Mini, the Air 2, the Mavic 2 Pro, and some of the higher end DJI lineups. Now, even though they are rated for decent distance with the Wi-Fi, I think this is rated for about 1.2 miles. This one right here is rated for a little over 2 miles away. Yes, they're rated for that, but I will normally always kind of cut that in half. So if you're looking at flying this out there, half a mile, 3/4 of a mile, it should have decent connection. But when you rate something like the Mini 2, which is rated for 6 miles, you know that within a mile or 2 miles away, you should still have solid connection compared to the enhanced Wi-Fi that these guys put out. Now, the one thing I actually thought was kind of a cool idea with the Air 1 and the Spark is that you were able to use your mobile phone to fly your drone. Now, that was something I would never normally really do because of the fact that you just don't have that tactile control feel like you would if you're holding an actual remote control. But the fact that that ability was there was kind of a cool feature, and I kind of wish that some of the new drones still enabled that feature to be able to just possibly go outside, have your Mini, and just have your phone and fly it. And the thing is, if you have things like quick shots and some of those automated features in there, then you don't really have to control it. It's really just to get it up in the air, fly it out to, 100 feet away or 50 feet away, and then engage that quick shot. I think that for me would be a really cool feature to have, the ability to just turn on your mobile phone, not have to deal with a remote control, and engage something like a quick shot. Now, the one thing that the Spark and the Air 1 do have over the Mini though is they have at least basic obstacle avoidance. Now, the Spark does have some sensors here in the very front, and I do think that in the future, the Mini will more than likely adopt that sensor system here in the front. They do have these kind of grills here, which simulate the sensors that you would normally see on the Mavics, but there's nothing there, as well as this little light here in the front. I almost think that you can almost bring that sensing system that they had here on the Spark into this front area right here. The one thing I do like about the Air, which I don't know why they still haven't put this on the Mini 2, is that they have internal storage on the Air 1, 8 gig internal storage. I just don't see why companies nowadays don't always have at least 8 or 16 gigs. I mean, yes, it could be weight, it could be size, but just the ability to have internal storage at 8 gigs or 16 gigs. And that's about it, guys. Just want to talk to you about some of the main features I felt like were the biggest differences between now the new Mini 2 and some of these legacy ones here, the Air 1 and the Spark. So at the end of the day, is it worth upgrading? I think it definitely is worth upgrading for the battery life, the quality you're going to get. Just the reliability of the Ocusync system is completely different than the enhanced Wi-Fi that you'll get here. You're going to want that reliability when when you're up in the air. And if you wanted the smallest platform possible, because of the fact you were so used to flying with something small like this, the Mini 2 is even smaller than these. So if you wanted to stay very, very compact and light, then definitely the Mini 2 is the way to go. If you were happy with the Spark and the Air 2 and you feel like you might have maxed out the capabilities of these, then that's when you're going to want to look into the Air 2 or the Mavic 2 Pro. If you want those higher specs, better obstacle avoidance, better stability up in the air, that's when you're going to want to say, hey, you know what? I think I've maxed out what I've done with these smaller drones. I think I want to move up to the bigger ones. That's when you would move up to some of those bigger platforms. And that's all I got for today, guys. Once again, thanks for our sponsors, Storyblocks. If you guys want unlimited downloads of over 1 million royalty-free assets, make sure you guys check out my link down below in the video description. As always, if you guys got value from this video, don't forget to hit that like button, and also don't forget to subscribe. Hit that bell to be notified when I post new videos. This is Aldrin Estacio with FlytPath.com. I'll see you guys in the next one. Take care.